Good afternoon. Thank you. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Resident Second Quarterly Meeting with the Board of Directors, such as they are. My chief responsibility is to welcome you and thank you for sharing your time with us. We always appreciate the opportunity to try to shine up and look like we're smarter than we really are. My name is Dennis Stark. I'm chairman of the board, and I'd like to introduce Gary Wright, board member, formerly our legal counsel since Gary and I both had dark hair. Bill O'Connor. Bill was a former chairman, and one of our new people, Monica Mendoza, who's a professor at Stetson, correct? We've added two new board members, well, three, including Monica, Bruce Smith and Lisa Ogram. So we're finally back up to 9 people to direct the operations of John Knox Village from up here. So we're back to full staff. Without any further ado, I don't have any jokes, so I'll just go ahead and turn it on. And not to infer that that's what Joe's purpose is, I'll turn it over to Joe Trainer.
I didn't know if I should be offended or not, but it sounded true. Welcome to the quarterly. We get an opportunity to recognize employees, so let's start here. Dear Board of Directors, residents, and stakeholders. Today we gather to celebrate not just the passage of time, but the incredible contributions of our team members have made over the years. It's a joyous occasion to honor our employees' dedication and hard work as they've reached a significant career milestones here at John Knox Village of Central Florida. First, let's congratulate our colleagues who are celebrating 5 years with us. Your fresh perspectives and energies has significantly contributed to our growth and the quality of life for our residents. Your dedication is evident in every task you undertake, and the positive impact you've had on the lives of those you serve is immeasurable. For those making a decade of service, your personal growth and commitment are truly inspiring. 10 years of service means 10 years of caring, learning, and adapting. You have seen changes and have been an integral part in shaping our community into what it is today. Your dedication to our mission is a testament to your unwavering commitment that inspires all of us. And to our esteemed colleague who has been with us for 25 years, what an extraordinary journey. You are the pillar of our community, embodying the spirit and legacy of our organization. Your loyalty and profound contributions have left indelible marks on our community's fabric and in the hearts of those who walk our halls. Whether you're celebrating 5, 10, or 25 years, each of you is integral to our collective achievements. Your efforts have fostered our support and loving atmosphere, making a significant difference in the lives of the residents and their families. Today, we express our deepest gratitude and appreciation. We are here to celebrate your past contributions and look forward to the great optimism your future endeavors with us. As we continue to grow and evolve, know that your talents and efforts are the backbone of our success. On behalf of the Board of Directors, the residents, and the stakeholders of John Knox Village of Central Florida, thank you for your years of service, and here's to many more years of success and achievements ahead. What I'd like to do is, we were asked to we want you to see who we're recognizing, so we have invited the people we're going to celebrate this quarter up. So Elvira, are you going to mention names, and then we're going to hand out awards.
Celebrating 5 years of service, Jesus Diaz, Dining Services server, who is unable to come in today. Celebrating 5 years of service, Jeannie Doney, Oak Park Pharmacy Tech. Celebrating 5 years of service, home health aide, Crystal Marroquin, who is unable to come in today. Celebrating 5 years of service, community service officer, James Monroe. Celebrating 5 years of service, home health RN, Myrna Perrier. Celebrating 10 years of service, Shaniqua Johnson, Majestic Oaks RN. Celebrating 10 years of service, Oakview Patient Care Assistant, Claudette Lindo, who is unable to come in today. Celebrating 10 years of service, Maintenance Tech, Jose Martinez. And celebrating 25 years of service, Majestic Oaks Business Office, Jermaine Wood, who is also unable to come in today. Thank you so much.
All right, we kind of decided, we have seen what you have seen out in the community. Communities like ours struggling, some of them claiming bankruptcy, some going completely out of business. You probably saw the article in the Wall Street Journal about Aldersgate in North Carolina just yesterday. Yes. Well, their CFO decided to kind of put some shade marks on their financials, and they're in financial trouble. They have a state monitoring from the state of North Carolina in their community, doing what they do. Now, we pride ourselves on having zero debt. Zero debt. We know to each and every one of you that's important. It's also very important to the board of directors. Because I can tell you, anytime I ask for money, it's, can we do it without borrowing money? Oh, that's a trick question, Joe. You're not going to borrow any money. So we get that all the time. We know that's critical to our operations, and it's critical to you in maintaining the lifestyle and the history, ongoing history of John Knox Village. So one of the things I've asked Cynthia to do is I've asked her to kind of take a step back and just kind of do a brief overview of our report to the Office of Insurance Regulation. So she's going to spend a little bit of time going through that. She shares this with the Finance Committee, and she goes into great detail. She's going to kind of just do an overview. Why? We have no secrets. We're transparent. We want you to see what things are actually like. We don't want to hide things, and nor will we hide things, because in the long run, it only comes back and bites everybody. So with that, I'd like to invite the Chief Financial Officer of John Knox Village of Central Florida, Cynthia Pohl, to do her presentation. Cynthia.
Hello. I'm good. All right. Good thing I printed my notes. All right. Great introduction. Thank you. Overview of why we're kind of talking about this today. So the Florida Office of Insurance Regulation, there we go. The Florida Office of Insurance Regulation is one of the many regulatory agencies that we have here as a community. We hear a lot about a lot of our healthcare regulatory agencies, ACA, et cetera. But because we are considered an insurance product, all CCRCs in the state of Florida are regulated by the Florida Office of Insurance Regulation. In fact, we have an entire chapter, 651, in the Florida statutes That is the continuing care contracts, that is the regulatory document. So as Joe said, today I'm going to give just a very high-level look at what we submit on an annual basis to the OIR. We have annual reports that we send to them for financial information, and we have quarterly reports that we also submit. So I'm going to go through just some overview highlights of the annual. So the annual financial report filed to the Florida Office of Insurance Regulation. It is due 120 days after the end of a community's fiscal year. We're a calendar year fiscal year, so for us this means the report is due by May 1st. Other communities may be a June 30 or a 9/30, so theirs would fall into that 120 days. We do keep a copy of the full report in the resident library, as well as we are required to issue a copy of it to the resident council president within 30 days of filing the report. Also, I meet with the finance committee depending on the schedule of filing our reports, and I do review in detail thoroughly the full report with that committee. It's a great thing that we do. As Joe said, we are all about transparency. That's not technically a requirement of the OIR, but we feel it is very important to have that discussion and have that communication. Along with the annual report, with that report, we have to submit the independent CPA audit that goes along with it, and the audit must tie out to the OIR report. And as I mentioned, a copy of the report is kept in the library, resident library. The report requires several categories of information to be submitted. Amongst the highlights and kind of the more focus areas are contract information, including fees, charges, type and number of contracts, and residents. We report on what does our wait list look like? What do we have on reservation deposits? What was our unit sales for the year? The units that were vacated, the units that were moved into, what is the turnover of that? And a summary of our entrance fees collected during the year and also refunded during the year. We have to report our financials, so our balance sheet, our statement of operations, and our cash flow statement. We also provide support information for our minimum liquid reserve, which is the money that OIR requires us to keep in reserve to cover mandated debt, which we don't have any, but it's required. It also covers a portion of operations and renewals and replacements. Typically, communities do not dip into that MLR. It is a reserve for the, oh my gosh, we need to dip into it. We don't need to dip into it. We don't plan on dipping into it, but we're required to have it. The OIR also has a calculation of some financial operating ratios. They started that in 2019. And we'll see those in a little bit. And then we also report, as of the end of the year, who were our board of directors and our John Knox officers. All right, so fees and charges. So this report is some snapshots of things that I've taken directly from the OIR report to show. So in fees and charges, types and number of contracts and residents, this first top section is where we are reporting on entrance fees and monthly service fees. We report in that year what was our lowest fee and what was our highest fee, so that they want to keep track of. We also report what is our resident population. So where are they living in their level of care? So it breaks out between independent living, assisted living, and skilled nursing. And then they want to see the breakout between who has contracts and who does not. So on our independent living line, you can see that 580, which includes first residence and second residence, is all under the continuing care contract, because to move into independent living is your entrance fee moving in with the CCRC contract. Assisted living, we had 38 residents under contract, but we had 4 residents that had moved in directly from the community. And in skilled nursing, we had 40 of our life care residents, and we had 63 that had moved in, or perhaps even as just short-term rehab, were there from outside of the community. In total, at the end of the year, if you add that 658 and that 57, we had 725 residents living on campus. Wait list and reservation deposits. So wait list is a nominal flat fee that a potential resident would pay. They're not quite ready to move in yet, but they think they're very interested in John Knox, and they want to put their name on a wait list. Maybe they're waiting on a specific type of unit, style of unit, a particular neighborhood on campus, and that puts them on the list of when something comes available and it meets their criteria, they get the calls first to see, are you interested in this unit we have available? Yes or no. If they say no, we'll pass. Then marketing will do their marketing thing and get that apartment and that unit sold. But they get the first priority of looking at that. The reservation deposit is the 10% of the entrance fee that is paid at the time that the residents sign the contract. So we can see on here that in the wait lists, at the beginning of the year, we had 46. We only collected 4 more wait lists, but we utilized 24 of those. So utilizing a wait list means 24 of the wait list people moved in during the year, because wait lists are non-refundable, so the only way they get utilized is when the resident moves in. When the resident moves in, the portion that they paid for the wait list does go towards their entrance fee. And at the end of the year for reservation deposits, we had 22. So that means we had 22 people who had given us their 10% that hadn't yet moved into the community. All right, the balance sheet. So as I mentioned, the financials must reconcile to the audit. However, the format of the audit and the format of the OIR reports don't always match up exactly. So we'll see a few of those differences as we go along, but the important thing is that the important totals that you're looking at, and OIR is looking at, and the audit is looking at, those will match. It's sometimes in the detail lines of how they break some of those expenses and assets and things like that out that have some differences. So this is the balance sheet, and what I did was on these next few slides, I took a snapshot of how it looks on the OIR report versus how it looks on our independent audit. So on the OIR report, you can see we've got the current assets, non-current assets, total assets into total liabilities and assets of $197 million and some change. And our independent audit report nicely matches $197 million and some change. The statement of operations, which is also known as an income statement in for-profit businesses. Again, kind of the same format and the same comments. A little bit difference in how things will line up, but at the top, you can see that on our OIR report, we have total revenues of 51.7 million plus. We have total expenses of 44.4 million plus, for a positive change in net assets of 7.3 million plus. And down on our independent audit report, if you go to the total revenue line, we get to those same set of numbers, 51.7 plus, 44.4 million plus, and 7.3 million plus. All right, the cash flow statement. The Finance Committee has heard me say every time we meet, I really don't like the cash flow statement. It is one of the trickiest statements to work through and understand. So it's an interesting statement to get through, but essentially what the cash flow statement is designed to do is, what was your change in assets on your statement of operations? We knew it was 7.3 million plus. How do we go from 7.3 million plus to get to the amount of cash we actually have sitting in our account. Because not all transactions on the statement of operations are an actual cash transaction. So we have to back some things off, add some things in to get to getting our cash to match. So you can see on the OIR report, we've got, starting with the change in net assets of 7.3 million. All the other detailed lines that you don't see here but are on the full report shows that we had an overall increase in that cash of $545,000. You take that to what was the cash at the beginning of the year, 10.3. You add the 545, and you get to the cash at the end of the year, 10.9 million. And then on our independent audit report, their line item that gets to the cash number is the same 10.9 million. I'm going to take a drink. All right, next is the minimum liquid reserve, which in my office lingo we refer to it as the MLR. Again, that is the funds that the Florida OIR requires us to keep in an escrow account. There is a big calculation that's done once a year. It's about a 45-page report to make that calculation happen, to determine what that amount needs to be. The amount only changes once a year with that calculation, and it's based on our financials for our fiscal year, and whatever the calculated number is, it goes into effect 180 days later. So the cycle of what our MLR required amount is runs from July 1st to June 30th, as opposed to our fiscal year that runs January 1 to 12/31. So this is showing snapshots from the OIR report. The top section is where we tell them that, well, I say see Exhibit B in miscellaneous documentation. That Exhibit B is the actual bank statement of the investment accounts from U.S. Bank, which is where we hold that escrow account. It's in money market taxable bonds. We use a generic date acquired of 1/1/1900 that has been given the okay by the OIR because, right, bonds and money market accounts, those are changing all the time. So if we were to list every single one individually, it would be pages and pages that we go through. The actual cost is the book cost of those, which is a little over 10.2 million, and the market value at the end of the year was 10.7 million. The next piece shows what our calculated actual required amount is. So based on that big document that we go through and calculate, our required reserve amount is 9.4 million plus, and we have 10.7 in there. Why do we have 1.3 million in there more than what we're required to? Markets fluctuate, and we have to have a cushion in there to let that market go up and down and up and down and up and down. So we want to keep enough of a cushion in there so when it does go down, we are still in compliance with the MLR. All right, calculation of the financial operating ratios. Again, in 2019, OIR implemented these ratios. So they look at days cash on hand, occupancy, and debt service coverage. So cover your debt payment. Well, that's the easiest one for us, right? Because how many times do we love to repeat because we are proud of it and we're going to stay that way? We have no debt. So for us, that debt line doesn't apply. Days cash on hand, the OIR has a surprisingly low statutory requirement of 100 days cash on hand. Essentially, days cash on hand is to say if cash inflows stopped today, how many days based on your reserves could you continue your normal operations? They require 100. At the end of the year, we had, I'm going to round it up, 698 days cash on hand. So not quite 2 full years that we could continue operations. I also like to point out here that when I'm meeting with the committee and the board of directors, the OIR calculation for the days cash on hand is actually slightly different than our independent auditor's calculation of the cash on hand. The OIR allows us to include that $9.4 or $10.7 million that's in our liability reserve, our liquid reserve. The audit does not allow us to count that. So the difference is in our audit at the end of the year, it calculated out at 636 days cash on hand. So still very healthy, but I like the OIR number better, obviously, as the accountant. And then they also look at occupancy. Their statutory requirement is 80%, campus-wide, community-wide, all levels of care. For the year, we came in at 78.2. That is not a snapshot of the last day of the year. That is taking literally 365 days, what was our average occupancy. So I know, Joe has talked in some of his chats, other committee meetings that, challenges that we have faced with occupancy, but the plans that we have in place for occupancy, and they're going very well. Kudos to sales and marketing. Year to date this year, we have more sales than what we had for the entire of 2023. So, that's looking good for occupancy. We're getting those people moved in. It's a rolling 12 months, so I'm thinking quarter one won't still quite come in at 80, but I'm hoping when we hit quarter two that we've crossed that 80% threshold. And last is we do have to report to them every year that at the end of the year, what was the picture of our John Knox officers and board of directors. So we have Joe and myself as the listed officers, and then Mr. Stark, Mr. O'Connor, Mr. Lafise, Mr. Gonzalez, Mrs. Kelton, and Mr. Wright as our board of directors as of 12/31. During 2023, we did have 2 other board members, Mr. Jacquez, who passed away in the summer, and then Dr. Burgess, who did resign at our board meeting in December, so he was not included as of 12/31. That's it. That's my high level, right at 4 o'clock. Any questions? None taken? All right. Thank you.
I am going to do a shameless plug. Tomorrow, 9:30, where are you going to be? Here. Right here. Yeah, well, Joe, I got some good stuff for you, so hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. If you don't have any questions, you are free to go, and thank you for your time today. We appreciate it.